We are joined by Michael Gene Sullivan, whom usually perhaps you're used to seeing on a stage in the parks for the Mime Troupe summer season, which is creeping up on us.
Coming up soon, very soon.
Dude, well, how's it going?
It's going all right. I'm not writing the show this year.
Yeah, you've been the playwright in residence for a long time.
For a long time. So this year, the show is being written by Rotimi Agbabiaka, who is a Mime Troupe member, a wonderful actor and a writer. And he asked the collective if he could write the show this year. And we all went, yeah, sure.
So, can you give us a hint about the theme?
The title of the show is
Seeing
Red. And it is about the rise and fall and potential rise of socialism in the United States.
Excellent. That's excellent. That's what Richard Escott would talk about. That's what Aviva was talking about.
Yeah, I was listening.
Excellent. So, meanwhile, that's not why you're here.
No, that's not why I'm here.
You're here because you've taken on something else. Since you didn't have to write the play, then what else is he going to do, dude? He's going to look at the plays he's already written. And what are you doing here?
So for the last year, actually, so when the last quote-unquote election happened, a lot of theater companies came to me and said, well, we want to do political theater. We want to do something like you guys do. Can you suggest any plays to us? So I was talking to different artistic directors, and we were coming through different ideas, but all of the plays that we could find to talk about were like from the 30s and 40s. Because that's, this rich era of,
Odets,
SF Playhouse did Born Yesterday, which is a great production, a wonderful show.
Well, and Berkeley Rep has been doing stuff too.
Doing, It Can't Happen Here and things like that. But people were like, well, where are the new shows? And so I was talking to different companies, and we were trying to find more recent plays about more recent events. And finally someone said, well, what about Mime Troupe plays? And I realized that the Mime Troupe has always been very focused on trying to get the word out, and we create these plays, and the show finishes, and we go, gosh, we wish more people could do this, more people could read them, students could study them around the world. But then we have to immediately focus on the next show.
Yes, indeed.
And so after I was asked that, somebody said, well, what about Mime Troupe shows? And I was like, that's right, what about Mime Troupe shows? And we've also, even when Joan Holden was head writer and even before her, there was always an emphasis on trying to put out anthologies, but we always wanted to start at the beginning. It was always like, well, let's start in 1959.
See, this sounds like me trying to clean off my desk. It's
right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so finally I was like, I'm going to work backwards. Because these are the plays I already have on my computer. I just have to reformat them, set them up to make them all similar. And some of them, two of them I didn't write on. One that Joan wrote with Aaron Blackwell, and another one that Pat Moran wrote with Adelpha Mejia. But I had all of them, and I was like, I can put all these together. And then I approached the collective and said, what I'd like to do is release all of these for free in an anthology as an ebook. So that, and you can put it on, we'll put it on iTunes, we'll put it on Amazon. People can donate, because there's a way you can do it where it's just for donation, or you can just get the book. It probably will start
just like troupe shows.
Just like troupe shows.
Get the shows, or you can put some money in the hat.
Yeah, and so we'll start with it'll be on the Mime Troupe website starting May Day.
Whoa, man! So this is I know that this is very soon because my birthday is shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
I just
so is Valina's. My wife Valina Brown. Hers is on the 4th.
Oh, mine's the 3rd. See
oh,
there?
Wow.
Oh, so and what happens on May Day? I mean, several things happen, but what about the anthology?
Well, I'm finally finishing up right now. I'm literally like, I'll go home and finish putting photographs in, and also putting photographs in, and I'm also getting people that have seen Mime Troupe shows to write, and they've submitted thoughts about particular shows, what shows meant to them, individual shows, and their different images and stuff. So that's what I'll be doing the rest of this week. I didn't realize until I finally put them all together, because it took me so long just to format each individual one. When I finally finished it, it's over 211,000 words. Yeah. It's this massive
and I've read many
tome.
of the scripts, but and is it just sort of like a script? For a
it'll
play?
Be a script, but it'll have what I have to do in the next couple of days is go through the script and find moments that I think work better visually, or the audience would go, I wonder how they did this, and see if I have a picture for that moment. So to try to tell the story
because you guys are in the tradition of commedia dell'arte and physical theater. There's a lot of that going on, much less the rim shots
and all of that. I wish I could put all of that. And we've got all of the lyrics from all of the songs. We still, one of the other big projects that I need to find a grant for is there's so many mime troupe plays, even of the last 16 or 17 years, which is what this is. This is the Bush-Obama years. We don't have complete scores. We have all of the lyrics, but by the time we got to performance, we weren't focused on the written music anymore. And so any changes that happened just happened on the fly. So what I need to do is find a massive
Something
grant.
else is very familiar to the mime troupe.
Yeah. But it's like if we want people, because I want to release these plays for free so that students can study them, so that the next generation of activist playwrights. High school
play can be one of these. I just would love it. What did we do? Cheaper by the dozen. You know what I'm saying? We did do Diary Van Frank, but
right.
But this has been so much fun.
At least to study them, they're not that long. Hour and a half. But also so that college and university students and libraries, so that when students are saying, "Well, I want to write some political, something political," what are my options? Because they'll read, Odette's, and they'll read all of these great playwrights, but they'll be more serious, or they'll read stuff from the 60s. And it's like, here's a way to deal with very serious political issues in a way that's still accessible to the audience. Here's what the songs were like. Here's all of this stuff. Even if they never do the show, there are college professors and university professors who can say, we can study this. And like I said, so we need to but I really want to get all the music. I need to hire someone who can listen to all of those years of music and transcribe it into, so then if somebody wants to do it and say, here's the music and here's the book.
Well, I'm remembering going to see a Mendocino high school, which is a very, very small high school, production of Rent. And the reason they like doing that show is because it says something about inequality, about poverty, about homelessness. And kids would go nuts for these plays in school. It would be wonderful.
Yeah, because they've been trained, unfortunately, with shrinking theater budgets and theater professors that can't say anything, teachers that aren't supposed to challenge anything, to say every play you see was normally created for a political reason. When I'm teaching playwriting, which I'm doing this summer, as a matter of fact, at ACT, one of the things is I always talk about the play The Odd Couple. The Odd Couple now is just this jokey, weird play. When it was made, it was a political play because it's about how the power has shifted from men to women. The most powerful characters in The Odd Couple are the two ex-wives. They dictate everything. And these two men are trying to figure out, well, what are they now? What's the definition of a man if it's not in the dominant position? And they're struggling for dominance in their relationship because the women have been liberated from the being dominated by them. So when the play comes out, it's an important play. And what it's saying to men and how they're defining themselves is important. 10 years later, people don't get the point of it. So
either that or the point has been made, although I think that's not a point. Obviously, from headlines recently,
not
it hasn't been made enough.
Not nearly enough, yeah. But so all of these plays are political, and so many teachers are told they've grown up not thinking of these plays as political, not thinking of theater as political. And so to have a theater company where we can say these are only political. They're hilarious, they're amusing, they're enlightening, they're entertaining, but they're also political. And to be able to teach your students to go, this is an option, is what we really are striving to do. Because we're coming up on our 60th anniversary.
When?
Yeah, freaky. Next year.
Ooh.
So we're trying to put together a big event for that. So all of these things that we're trying to do to try to reach out for our 60th anniversary, too.
Well, I should tell you that the Mime Troupe then is just a year younger than Avi Chomsky, whom we just talked to.
Oh, really?
She just had a birthday on the 20th of April. I forgot. I was going to wish her a happy birthday.
Oh, my goodness. She sounded like she was like 30.
Yes,
her passion and energy. And that's what I always tell people. They're like, oh, my goodness, she seems so young and alive. And I was like, leftism, that keeps you young. Well,
and don't get caught in the young and alive versus being well, anyway.
Yeah.
Don't go there. So tell me now about how do we find this thing. So on May Day, you're listening to Michael Gene Sullivan, who is the resident playwright, except for when he doesn't have to be, of the San Francisco Mime Troupe. He's one of the collective members there, and he's on stage frequently too. We're not talking about the season, which as traditionally starts on 4th of July.
4th of July weekend.
Yes, the weekend.
Yeah.
But we're talking about an anthology of plays from what?
2000 to 2017.
Okay.
Or 2016, sorry.
Okay.
So the Bush-Obama years, what's it called?
Remember
the Hopey, Dopey, Changey, Droney years, I think is the title of the anthology.
Okay, and it's going to be an ebook? I don't even know so tell me how will I know about this? How will I learn? How will I get to it?
Well, it'll be go to the Mime Troupe website. There'll be a link that says if you want to download the ebook, you can. And you'll click on that, and it'll either take you to another page or it'll just start downloading it immediately.
That's too easy, Michael. So what's the website?
sfmt.org.
sfmt.org. As of May the 1st. Very cool.
Yeah, we might, it would be nice to be able to get to a point where we can also print some up.
Yeah.
It's just that, like I said, I went going through it. It's like 1,600 pages at this point. It's a lot of plays. Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Right. That's why it's taken me. I thought this was going to be something I was going to do in a month, and it's a year later, and I'm still finishing it up.
This is a multi-volume anthology,
so
this only goes to 2000.
Right. So what my hope is, we were always trying to figure out how should we divide up Mime Troupe shows, and I was like, well, divide them up by presidential administrations. If we do like 8 years each time, then that gives us, there's going to be some overlap. There'll be, Clinton years and then, Clinton, Bush, Reagan, but it gives us a chance to really help the audience put the plays in a time perspective. Say, this is what was going on.
Historical context, yeah. Man, well, and you guys always make references to all kinds of other things that are going on in the culture in your plays as well. Oh, this is going to be fun.
Oh, it should be.
I'm looking forward to this. So, sfmt.org.
and look up the anthology. And like I said, that'll just be a straight ebook. And then I've got to submit it. I don't know how long it takes with iTunes and Amazon and those online book things because they have to make sure it's not porn or something. I don't know. But then it's just so that you can download it. Then you can read it more easily on your phone or an iPad or any kind of thing like that, as more people do. But you can also just download it and read on your computer. You could print it if you got,
That's
1,700 pieces of paper at home.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. So, and then tell now what happens after this, or what you hope happens after this. You said something about a grant to do something. And
yes, we actually have someone who stepped forward and said they would be interested in transcribing all of the music.
Good-o.
But we've got to hire them. So there are a couple of organizations that specialize in that, like the Gershwin Family Foundation and different groups like that. So we're going to start trying to, once I'm done with this, then we can reach out to them and see if we can get funding for that. Because that's going to be a huge amount of work. They just got to sit there and listen. Listen to each song and listen to all of the
but there are computer programs. I have relatives that write, and there's lots of things you can do you can almost play into the computer and then it prints it. Puts it in.
One of our newest collective members, Daniel Savio, of that Savio family. He is a musician, and he's been the keyboardist for us for the last few years. And he said he was willing to do it, and he has that software. But you still have to go through and correct it and make sure, because some of the software...
it's very labor-intensive.
Very labor-intensive. And then we have all of that other music that's in Mime Troupe shows through every scene. And we've been talking about, well, how do we put that in? Do we just put the chords? Do we try to write all that out? So we'll have a lot of meetings about that once I'm finished with this.
High school bands are going to love this, too.
Oh, goodness, yes. That's true. They could just, we got approached one time, and I'd love to get back to them. Maybe I should talk to them. San Francisco Symphony one time said they wanted to do a concert of Mime Troupe songs. Like they do music from movies and all of this stuff. And they're doing West Side Story. And they're like, maybe we could do Mime Troupe songs. And I was like, that's a great idea. Of course, I then forgot about it. That was on the 50th anniversary. And it didn't work out. I think Michael Tilson Thomas, who was interested, he got sick or something, and it didn't work out. I should talk to them about next year doing that. during
Yes.
the 60th. Yeah.
Yes.
I'll do that when I get home.
Okay, good. So next up is the music, and from there, who knows? It's going to be in libraries.
Yes.
Eventually.
That's wanted in libraries, wanted to be able to get it to all of those places. The Mime Troupe used to be able to do all of these tours around the country because schools had enough money to bring us and community organizations had enough money to bring us. We went to, the last time we went to Maryland 2 years ago to do Freedom Land, which is about, police brutality in the black community. And, but that was the only gig on the entire tour. We drove all the way across the country to play a little place in Maryland. We were supposed to play Baltimore, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Detroit, all these places, and all of them dropped out because of funding cuts. And the only one that stayed was Maryland. And through that school and the extraordinary generosity and flexibility of the National Endowment for the Arts, because they gave us a grant, and they were just like, okay, we'll let you use it for that. They really didn't have to, so it was very nice of them.
Well, them days is gone too. The National Endowment for the Arts.
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, they've still got money, but I mean, they've managed to make it through, and
well, they've been on the chopping block for decades.
Yeah, since they were formed.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the idea somehow that our tax dollars should go to making our lives better, or that our tax dollars should go to life rather than death. Because if you look at the budget for the United States, it's really, we fund death, and life has to take a backseat to death, and that's just stupid. This is anyway.
Well, it works out for those that can afford to escape the death part and just get everybody else.
Right.
Don't get me started. You're listening to Michael Gene Sullivan, resident playwright and collective member of the San Francisco Mime Troupe, and since my other guest is not in the orbit, let me then go to what you're going to do. You talked about touring, and what about this year's play?
Oh, yes.
What did you say the name of it?
Seeing Red.
Seeing Red, that's right.
Because the idea is that, there's a point, late 1800s, where the United States is shifting, making this dramatic shift towards progressivism. The era of the robber barons and Wall Street and all of this stuff had made all of these people realize that they were losing their farms, they're losing their businesses, they're losing all of this. And why aren't we working together as workers, basically the new industrial class and the farmers and the freed slaves, all of these people who are coming together to say this is about civil rights and this is supposed to be our country and not just the country of the rich, which is where we're going back to now.
May it be so. I'm knocking wood.
Well, the show is about how now we have this basically, it's a robber baron era. Now we call it libertarianism. The idea that, make as much money as you can. It doesn't really matter. I was listening on the radio about the idea of why is it the taxes keep getting cut for the super wealthy and across the country, but also in California, you've got these incredibly wealthy people who will say, well, I will adopt a school district. I will endow a hospital. Why don't you just pay your damn taxes? Stop, because they want their name on that hospital. They want their name on that school.
What's in it for me?
Yeah, right. What's in it for them? Because philosophically, they're against taxes. And that taxes are what is the price you pay for a civilization. So, and as we're going back to this period of what, like I said, we used to call the robber barons, and now it's just libertarianism, the reaction of not I'm going to say reaction, but the feeling that it brings up in the workers is slowly a sense of, well, wait a minute, this is just wrong. In a country that keeps saying it's number one, in a country that keeps promoting itself as the wealthiest, most abundant land of opportunity, why is everybody's life getting worse except for these few people who are basically living parasite-like off of my income? So that's capitalism. It's just financial parasites. So the idea of what is it going to take for Americans to realize that socialism and progressivism is actually what benefits the greatest number, and to get past the propaganda, the capitalist propaganda. And so it's happened in the past a few times, and each time there's been, after World War I, there was a break where the Democrats finally shifted because after seeing the Bolshevik Revolution and seeing the revolutions that were happening, they were like, we have got to do something to keep the workers from killing us. So we end up with the New Deal. Yeah, basically. So we end up, and after the Bonus Army March, getting those guys and getting, gassed and beaten in D.C., the government finally says, we've got to do something. It can't just be about the rich people. And that staved off a real revolution in the United States. But as the conservative movement has been eroding the New Deal all this time.
Oh, since day one, exactly. Yeah.
Trying to get rid of Social Security, trying to get rid of unemployment benefits, trying to get rid of all of these things. And now, and the things that came during the Great Society, trying to get rid of Medicare, trying to get rid of all of this stuff to benefit themselves. More and more people are finally going, well, wait a minute. What was that thing about socialism again? And Bernie Sanders running and going, so socialism becomes something that people are studying again and going, what's the bad side of this? I'm not seeing the downside here. Democratic socialism seems to be an option again. And so what we want to do with the show is to kind of say, not just that this should be an option, but also how was it undermined before?
Yes, learn from our mistakes, as it were.
Learn how those ideas got co-opted and how they got degraded and how people were fooled into believing that their small victories were grand victories. It's like, okay, so now you have the right to strike. But that's not quite the same.
That's all you need, yeah.
Yeah. Now you get to strike and then we can ignore you, as opposed to collective ownership, So we need to keep our eyes on what is really the greatest good for the greatest number and not be distracted by the crumbs that they flick off the table at us, convincing us that these are whole meals.
Michael Gene Sullivan. So now you're making me think about a report that I just read today about the reason people voted for Trump, and the trope is that it was they lost their job and it was economic reasons. And this report says no, au contraire, it's because white Christian men were frightened that they were losing. They could see that they are losing power, that they're no longer, it used to be really good to be a white Christian male. And now not so much. Now it's very scary. And looking at China as a threat in that way, because that's a different race and they own all of our debt and that's what it was that. And so the use of these fears, there are some very real fears, but to magnify the fear and thereby the divisiveness, create this notion of divisiveness.
Well, using fear is so convincing someone that they're a victim. And this is one of the things that's so weird. The United States, the people in power will always say how much they're against the word victim and victimhood and stuff, unless, strangely enough, it's a white guy. Then they're victims. They can go and shoot up a Waffle House, but we're more focused on their problems and their victimhood and all of this, But if it's a black woman being beaten up at a Waffle House by the cops, don't label her a victim. Because the word victim implies victimizer. And I feel like that's really the key. That if you can talk about a class of workers being victimized, then that means there is a victimizer. When it comes to these white Christian men, straight white Christian men, who are being victimized as workers,
Amen.
As members of the working class, they are being victimized. But the shift is, you're not being victimized by, a class oppressor. It's not capitalism. It's not the boss. It's the foreigner. It's the darky. It's the immigrant. It's all of these people. And by keeping them afraid, you will then run to whoever said they're going to take care of you. If you can keep pushing that part of the brain that's fearful and say, but I'm the only one that can save you. And people forget also, like Hitler, elected official at a time. He was.
Yes, he was.
Yes, people forget that. He came to power. No, he was elected. And he was elected because he had made enough people, strangely enough, not a majority, but he made enough people feel like he pumped up the fear. He pumped up their feeling of being oppressed, their feeling of being victimized, their feeling of our nation is special and we have become downtrodden because of our specialness. And so, of course, the first thing they did when they came to power was jail all the socialists and communists. Because they didn't want it to be about class. They wanted it to be about nationalism, about race. And it's the same with unfortunately, the Trump supporters who are so that they've been convinced that their enemy is their class enemy. It's like having factory workers convinced that the union is their enemy and the boss is their friend.
I like the way this guy thinks. Michael Gene Sullivan, thank you so much for being here today, especially since we couldn't get our other guests, but we're really happy to hear about the Mime Troupe, sfmt.org, for the ebook of the new anthology and the new show, Seeing Red. It opens the 4th of July weekend. Many blessings to you and the troupe, and all of you for listening, and to Erica Bridgman at the controls. I'll see you tomorrow.
You already know, right, that Yanis Varoufakis, former finance minister of Greece, is the co-founder of a global grassroots movement to revive democracy. He's also the author of several outstanding books, including Talking to My Daughter About the Economy and the new blistering expose, Adults in the Room, My Battle with the European and American Deep Establishment. Both Noam Chomsky and Slavoj Žižek praise him highly. Many consider Varoufakis, this leather-jacketed motorcycling rebel who openly opposes the international corporate class, to be the most interesting man in the world. Are they right? Find out Wednesday evening, May 16 at 7:30, when he'll be at First Congregational Church, 2345 Channing Way in Berkeley. This KPFA benefit, wheelchair accessible.